This Wednesday, April 30th, will mark 50 years since the fall of Saigon. The end of the Vietnam War resulted in hundreds of thousands of refugees arriving in the U.S. seeking a better life. Dr. Carolee Tran, a trained psychologist who now lives in Davis, was among that group. CBS 13's Hunter Sowards brings us her incredible story of survival in the first story in a series on the fall of Saigon.
April 30th, 1975. It's the day the North Vietnamese army took over Saigon, forcing the U.S. to abandon its embassy, evacuate personnel, and thousands of South Vietnamese. Carolee Tran was 8 years old at the time.
These were the most precious pictures. That was in her bag that she carried.
Her maternal grandfather, who worked for the American embassy, knew of the imminent danger.
He had my family and my grandparents, aunts and uncle go to Phu Quoc Island so that we would be close to the ocean so that we could get out more easily.
Carolee's father, a South Vietnamese army major, stayed behind. And for the next 3 weeks, they waited on the island. On the morning of April 30th, they spotted a white naval ship.
And my grandfather knew that that was an American ship that was picking up refugees. So we started like 8 a.m. in the morning trying to get out. And for several hours, none of the fishermen would take us out.
Desperate measures then called for desperate actions.
And finally, my mom had this huge sack of money, and she was on her knees begging the different fishermen and told them, if you take us out, you can have all this money.
They soon boarded a fisherman's boat, and when they saw the ship, Carolee managed to get on a barge.
Once I got onto the boat and stood on the scow, my mom told me to jump onto the scow. And there were just people being trampled.
Carolee reluctantly made the jump and got separated.
And at that point, I was being thrown around like a rag doll, and I was suffocating.
A stranger then grabbed her hand and she boarded the ship.
I stood at the edge of the ship, and I could see my sister down below with my grandparents. And then I heard the loudest orchestra of human suffering. People wailing and crying and yelling.
Carolee would eventually find her family on the ship, but the fear and misery never faded.
My baby sister, who was 18 months at the time, we had no milk for her. So 3 days into the journey, we could tell that she was fading and she was dying.
Her mother, again, taking matters into her own hands.
So my mom went around the ship and begged people to give her baby some milk or else she would die. And luckily, a mother of like 4 children shared the little milk that she had.
The naval ship finally made it to Guam. There, Carolee, her family, and thousands of refugees found shelter at a makeshift camp known as Tent City. At one point, while at the camp, a young family member told Carolee that her father was there.
And I thought he was joking, so I was so mad at him. I chased him down and hit him. And so then I look and I see that my dad was indeed there walking towards the tent with my mom.
Carolee and her family then headed for Camp Pendleton in San Diego and would make a new life in Northern California. Carolee would excel in school and become the first Vietnamese woman to earn a PhD in clinical psychology in the U.S. She also wrote a book called The Gifts of Adversity, describing her harrowing escape from Vietnam. Today, the married mother of 2 counts her blessings and knows the sacrifices made by refugees.
We are important, all of us, and we need to shine a light on the beauty of our country as a mosaic of all different people coming together. That's what makes our country beautiful.
Dr. Tran specializes in treating war and refugee trauma, and she's an associate professor of psychology at UC Davis. Up next tomorrow, the story behind this iconic photo. CBS 13's Steve Large spoke to the woman front and center, her family running towards their father after being held as a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 5 years. It's one of the many remarkable stories of survival and strength following the Vietnam War we'll be sharing until the 50th anniversary of its end. Watch CBS 13 at 5 and 10 p.m. each day as we introduce you to those within our own communities with personal ties to history.